Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Banking Frontiers Live. Today, we have a very known luminary from the financial industry sector. We have Mr. Keyur Doshi, the Chief Financial Officer from Fincare Small Finance Bank. Mr. Doshi, welcome to Banking Frontiers Live.
Thank you so much, Aditya. It's my pleasure to be here.
Thank you so much. So, Mr. Doshi, since you have been in the financial services sector from almost over a decade, in last few couple of years, there has been, monetary crisis, there has been pandemic, which has affected the financial industry a lot, and all our consumers along with the bankers. It has affected a lot, personally, professionally, in all the ways. So, how has Fincare Small Finance Bank performed during the pandemic times, and how have you leapfrogged these situations?
It's an interesting question. Thank you for that. The pandemic was to be handled from customers' perspective. Like we were to ensure that our customers are also safe. Like they are given adequate time to sort of make the payments. So we had, in fact, in small finance banks, at Fincare, we had given moratorium to almost about 98% of our customers. And that ensured that people had about 3 to 4 months time at that point in time, and sufficient time is available for them to start their repayments. So when that moratorium was given, and then the requirement was to sort of start with how do you start collections, we slowly and gradually started dealing with the customers. And in the last 3 to 4 months period, the vaccination drive, close to about 60% employees right now would have been vaccinated. So I think these are all on a softer side perspective. When we look at from a pure numbers perspective, while we have seen a growth of about 15% on the asset side, our the deposit mobilization also has been very, very strong. In fact, on the deposit side, we have seen something like 106% CAGR growth. If I look at the last 3 years number, and we were able to move our CASA numbers from 11% to close to about 23% plus. So on the asset side, about 15% growth. On the deposit side, a good growth with good CASA numbers, with good retail mix of close to about 91%. And on a ROE's perspective, we delivered about 14.3% ROE. So broadly, it has been a year which is, where the focus was more on the digitization, automation, ensuring that your employees are safe, you are able to service your clients properly, and in that entire process, also ensure that your finances are protected and you are coming out of this cleanly. That's what we have seen at Fincare.
Right now, talking in the current scenario where employees and bankers were working from home, then consumers were not able to reach to banks. Digitization, digital transformation has been a very important part of surviving in the pandemic. So there definitely must have been challenges, and especially Fincare Small Finance Bank has been working a lot in the rural sector. So what are the challenges that you have faced during the pandemic in the rural banking sector?
I think challenges as a bank is slightly different than probably from a rural banking perspective. And I'll probably answer both of this. From a bank perspective, the challenges were in terms of, as I said, the ensuring that the people are working from home and they are able to sort of, get the access properly, right? So your IT backend structure, the infrastructure has to be very, very strong. You need to have people who are able to sort of do the work remotely. Right. So that is how we have handled our rural customers. And from a pandemic 2 perspective also, government has come out with various schemes, like also ECLGS, the emergency credit line scheme, the restructuring options which government has given. So these are the tools which we have used to support our customers and ultimately giving them time to come out of this pandemic.
So, are there any particular regional strategies which work better in the rural population?
We are present into 16 states and 3 union territories. And we have a long legacy of about 14 years period. We are one of those entities or SMEs who are present more into the rural geographies. And our 90 to 95% of business is happening through the rural geographies, right? So our presence is very, very strong in that area. Uh, we have not seen or maybe a specific strategy wherein we focus on a particular area. Probably we have not followed that, but what we have followed over the last 10 to 14 years period is to work in the rural geographies and expand your business through in a contiguous geography. So if you are into a one particular place, you look at a circle of 5 kilometer, 10 kilometer, 25 kilometer, 40 kilometers, and then expand your risk slowly and steadily, and then add branches into that particular structure. So you're able to manage that particular business properly. Number two, what we have been following up for the last, about 10, 13 years is understanding the lucrativeness of respective geographies. You also then add the technological element. You look at your geo data, right? Your let long for those villages. You look at whether whether those villages or whether there are river belts, which are
Right.
closer to those villages. Now, if you have a river belt, then people are able to take and agriculture is something which is core to our economy as in country, and
Right.
agriculture, uh, taking loans for agriculture purpose also is a key product variant. And when you are offering them income generation loans with a combination of this, some of these additional components, your ability to service them appropriately, your ability to sort of your repayment behavior becomes better.
With mortgages and then other implications on NPAs, how is your financial standing today from a bank's perspective?
NPAs are one which are, I think the finances have got, when you look at the financial industry or the BFSI, banks and the NBFCs, pandemic has given the impact, and it is part and parcel of the business, right? You can't
Right.
escape the losses. In the second wave, it started from the central zone, and then it's from central zone it went to the southern zone. Now the moment we realized
Hmm.
that this is from a Maharashtra or an MP perspective, wherein in the second phase the pandemic cases were very, very high, then it
Right.
went to Gujarat, and then it came to Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, and we are broadly into these two geographies, although we are into 16 states, but these are the geographies which has major business. So we proactively worked on it. We ensured that when we saw a high number of cases or the COVID positive cases, we proactively 2 months prior started recruiting additional number of people in the southern geography, such that if the impact comes in the southern geography, then you are prepared. From the delinquencies perspective, we have seen certain delinquencies, but we have also covered ourselves adequately.
Great strategy. I mean, this reminds me of a term which which have been taught to us in our school days, that prevention is better than cure. So
Absolutely.
we embrace ourselves so well that before anything affects us, we are ready for it already. Everybody knows, and it is in the news as well, that you are going to launch your IPO. So with Fincare Small Finance Bank's IPO plans, what are the areas where you think or where you strategize to deploy your IPO funds?
It's an IPO of about 1,330 crore number. When we look at from the banks, so this 330 crore is the primary capital that we are looking at from the IPO process perspective, would be used more about meeting the growth requirement. From the usage of, and if I probably take one more step and say where or which segment we are going to sort of use this money for. Traditionally, we have been sort of a microfinance player, wherein about 79% of business or the loans were microfinance loans, and the remaining 20% are secured loans, where we offer loan against property, affordable housing loans, loan against gold, two-wheeler loans, rural loan against property loans, and institutional finance. These are the 5 or 6 products that we have been sort of offering. We would further strengthen that, and the focus would be to increase the secured asset mix. The 3 assets that we talked about, which is loan against property, affordable housing, and gold loans, would continue to be the flagship products.
As we already spoke about, digital transformation, spending on technology, is there a dedicated plan for, technology expenses?
So technology and digital is core to Fincare. Uh, we have started investing into it, or have been investing into it for the last 4 years period, since we have become bank. To give an example, we are one of those entities who complete our internal profit and loss account or completion on first of the month, right? We take less than 24 hours to generate our PNL. So digital is very, very core. Digital first strategies are very, very core to us, and we have a dedicated team within, which is focusing purely on digital and purely on IT. I think going forward, the focus would continue. It is there is a cost element from a digital or for a IT perspective, and other than the core banking system, most of our applications are in-house developed, and when you try to develop something in-house, it requires tremendous amount of energy. I mean, is your money, is your manpower, is your time which goes into it, and we are committed to that. So we have done that in the past, and we will continue doing so going forward to maintain our leadership position on the digital side.
My last question to you would be that since you are the Chief Financial Officer for the Fincare Small Finance Bank, what will be your advice for the future CFOs in the making?
Absolutely. From a future perspective and from a CFO's general role perspective, the role has been evolving over a period of time. Earlier, it was only about financials, but when you look at a banking perspective, it has got other elements. It has got treasury, it has got investments, portfolio management. You also play a role from a managing risk and compliance. Although there are separate assurance functions, but you also provide your eye. It's like third eye. The business is the first line of defense. The audit, risk, compliance is the second line of defense. And when a finance function or a CFO, you are putting everything together and then doing that audit of that entity. So, you are the third line of defense, wherein you have to ensure that we are on the right track. Going forward, what will be more important? And okay, from a CFO perspective, because you already have or also have a lot of data access, right? Your inputs on the strategy also would be very, very important or critical. You become a bouncing board for the CEO, wherein if there are new ideas, new places to go, you play a major role there as well. And last not the least, I would say the automation part of it. And it's easier said than done, but it starts with digitization and then analytics and then AI. So automation is a large journey, and if as a CFO, if you're able to implement that, into all the areas that you are touching, and if you're able to, it's all about speed. If you're able to do your work from a field perspective or from a backend operations perspective, if you are able to crunch the timeline from a 10-day to 1 day, from a 1 day to 1 hour, and from a 1 hour to 1 minute, then you are home. Then no one else can beat up, and that is the only way in the current era to be afloat and to ensure that you are not sinking, but you are there, and then you are moving forward.
Good and a better roadmap to be seen in next 5 years as per the plans which we have discussed. And we'll be looking out that what are the new achievements you are putting on the milestone. So more to come. Thank you so much for your time, Mr. Doshi. It was a wonderful session, and thanks for being a part of Banking Frontiers Live.
Thank you so much, Aditya, for having me here today, and thank you for your wishes.